When people found out that Lucasfilm would be making a Willow TV series, a follow-up to the 1988 action-adventure fantasy movie that was so beloved, people knew exactly what would happen, because this is what Lucasfilm does. They take IPs, they take things that people care about, that people love, and they destroy them with identity politics. And in the past decades, since it's been under Disney ownership, it's become synonymous with disaster, with failure. That's what we saw with Star Wars, it's what we're about to see with Indiana Jones, and that's absolutely what we've seen with Willow. And the reason this happened is because they decided to focus entirely on identity politics. Jonathan Kasdan himself, the same guy that made Lando pansexual in Solo, he's the one that came out and said, we decided to make the focal point of this series the lesbian romance between the gay princess and her lady knight. And that the entire goal of the show would be to make fantasy for a modern era. Where have we heard that before? It continues to be a catastrophic failure. The audience rating continues to sink. Fans, the audience, have rejected the Willow TV series because it's not just the fact that they decided to focus on identity politics. As often happens when you want to do that instead of entertain people, everything else suffers. The dialogue, the acting, the set design, the story, it's all terrible, and it all doesn't respect what came before it. Shocker. And then we found out what the inspiration was for Warwick Davis to return to this role, and it all started to make a lot more sense. Willow, Warwick Davis used Mark Hamill's Last Jedi performance as an inspiration. All of a sudden, it's all coming together. Hey, you know what? We're going to take this character that people cared about from the 80s and we're going to bring him forward into the modern day, but we're going to absolutely destroy the character. We're going to destroy the world that he lives in. Hey, you know what? Let's take inspiration from The Last Jedi, one of the most divisive films that's ever been out there, and a story that, for all intents and purposes, destroyed Star Wars. Congratulations, Warwick Davis. Great place to find inspiration. And I wanted to go to this entire thing because he talks a little bit about Jonathan Kasdan, about Ron Howard, and about this using Luke Skywalker, using Mark Hamill's Last Jedi Luke Skywalker for inspiration. This might be the only person in the world who has ever found that character to be inspiring at all. It's been 34 years since Warwick Davis last played the Nelwyn sorcerer Willow Ufgood, but now he's back to lead a new generation of heroes, a new generation of very diverse heroes. Make sure you remember that on another world-saving adventure in the Disney Plus series Willow. Davis first joined the Lucasfilm family as Wicket, a courageous young Ewok in Return of the Jedi, and would ultimately inspire his latest performance as an older Willow. Specifically, Davis referenced Mark Hamill's portrayal of Luke Skywalker in Rian Johnson's The Last Jedi. The one thing I took note of in particular was Mark Hamill returning to Luke Skywalker and how he went about the approach for that. I thought it was interesting. And it wasn't the expected approach, certainly, no. They wanted to subvert your expectations. People thought that they would be getting the Luke Skywalker that they actually loved and respected and were inspired by. Instead, they got a Luke Skywalker who is an actual piece of garbage. So incredible. Great person to take inspiration from. He came at it from quite a different angle, and I also did the same. I noticed Mark didn't try to play the character younger. He just leaned into his more mature years, and that's really what I did with Willow. I guess, is that something incredible that, hey, look, he didn't try to pretend like he was 25 years old, and I'm not going to either. Well, you know, people could at least pretend to respect the source material. People could at least pretend to respect the audience. Maybe these woke disasters, these woke flops would stop happening. So Jonathan Kasdan started gauging your interest on this revival during your time on Solo. He did. We were on the set of Solo, and I was looking very much like an older version of Willow. And he started talking about how much he loved Willow and the fact that he'd been inspired by the film as a young writer. Weird, because what did Jonathan Kasdan say about Willow now? Hey, you know, when it came out in 1988, it wasn't very diverse, and we needed to change that. Weird, isn't it? Weird how his tune has changed a little bit versus when he was talking to Warwick Davis until when he's talking to the mainstream media and has completely bastardized this story. But the thing to push into high gear was when Ron Howard came to direct. He and John chatted about Willow, and John again said what a huge fan he was of the film, and everything went from there. And then here is that quote about Luke Skywalker. Have you watched your fellow Star Wars collaborators revisit their legacy characters? Did you learn anything from their examples that help you shaped your return as Willow. You know, what should have happened is that you said, you know, I saw people's reaction to the way they use these legacy characters in Star Wars, and I told myself, I don't want to do anything like that because they were disrespected, they were bastardized, it destroyed the franchise. But no, that's not what Warwick Davis says. The one thing I took particular of note was Mark Hamill returning and how he went about the approach for that. I thought he was interesting and wasn't the expected approach. He came at it from quite a different angle, and I also did the same. I noticed Mark didn't try to play the character younger. He leaned into his more mature years. I'm 52 now. The first time I played the character, I was only 17. So I thought, well, let's not deny the fact that you're 52. Let's use that to make this character more interesting, more grounded, and more well-rounded. Within the series, the world we find Willow in is a different one than we last saw him. He's quite troubled. He has a lot of dark experiences in his own life, so he has to take all that on. And as an actor, I have to add my knowledge in the character situation and use that to reflect out in my performance. And I think it's pretty safe to say that he phoned it in. It's not a good performance by Warwick Davis, at least through the first 2 episodes. It is a bad show. It feels like CW level. That's what we're talking about when it comes to the intention behind the casting, when it comes to the identity politics, when it comes to the very cringe dialogue and humor between these characters, when it comes from the depiction of men and the depiction of women in this. Yes, very much on the nose for what's going on in Hollywood right now. And another disaster from Lucasfilm. Was there ever any doubt? People knew it would be bad. I don't know if they thought it would be this bad, but using Mark Hamill's Last Jedi Luke Skywalker as your inspiration sounds like a recipe for disaster. Let me know your thoughts in the comments section below. Smash a like button, subscribe to the channel, ring the bell for notifications, share this video out there, and I'll talk to you later. Thanks for watching, everyone, and a huge shout out to my patrons. I appreciate you guys so much. Want to follow me on Twitter or Instagram? Check out the description below. You'll find links to my P.O. box and my Patreon as well. And I'll talk to you guys later.